Yes, so welcome to the Body Temple Health Message as we continue to talk about the body systems. We are finding more and more that the way we are created is unique. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, that each system has a specific work to do. Those of you who read the Bible know that Paul talks about the body has many parts and each part has a work to do. And also Ellen G. White has talked about these body systems from the way she understood them. I love what we know from this book so far, that we've talked about the skeletal system, the bones, which gives us the frame, which also allows us to have joints, which can move and allow mobility. So when you look at the bones, the skeletal system, you're talking about strength and part of movement and structure. So without a frame, we have no posture, we have no position we can maintain to function efficiently. We talked about the muscles which have three types. The one I can move like I'm doing now, the one which moves when food is present in my throat and pushes things down, and the muscle of the heart which moves irrespective of whether I want it to move or not. It still moves to keep me alive. So now, and we talked about the cardiovascular system or the circulatory system, which is the heart and its arteries and veins and valves and how this keeps us alive. And now we are going to talk about the immune system, the immune and lymphatic system. This is a relevant system because we are in that generation where we had to wear masks to keep ourselves alive or to prevent diseases. And the immune system, it's a very good system which works closely with the other systems. So immune lymphatic system is connected to other systems, which we're going to talk about later. It's also connected to the cardiovascular system, as we talked about how the heart pumps blood and blood moves. As blood moves, these vessels are also carrying the immune particles, as well as the lymphatic system has its own system of circulation as well. So as we looked at the arteries, we also know that the lymphatic system also has lymphatic vessels. And I like the fact that this lymphatic system is the system which cleans things up. So the lymphatic system does the cleaning. You've heard people talk about enlarged lymph nodes. You've heard people talk about the removal of lymph nodes when they have breast cancer or some form of cancer. That's what I'm talking about. So this cleaning system has some form of areas where storage takes place, either storage or destruction of infectious organisms. And so coupled with the lymphatic system, which is cleaning up, is also the immune system, which goes to war. So immune fights, lymphatic cleans. And I like the fact that we as Christians, we believe in forgiveness. We also believe in victory and overcoming sin. The body also has to overcome certain diseases. And this, if it's not done, if the body succumbs or fails to overcome diseases, then we see death, early death, or progressive aging. There are people who age faster because their body is slowly dying because it's challenged. There are also some conditions which affects the immune system, which makes people either susceptible to sicknesses or makes people grow older or die younger as well. So as I'm speaking to you, you're thinking about some of the diseases we've experienced over the years. It's not just the 2019 COVID-19 pandemic, which was an issue. We've overcome other things like polio back in the day. We also still have struggles with HIV. We have struggles with hepatitis C and hepatitis A and B. And these are some of the problems which challenge our immune system directly in different ways. And we also have some other autoimmune conditions which destroys the cells which are supposed to be fighting for us to stay healthy. So that being said, we are thinking, okay, so how can we understand this a little better? We will at some point go into the details of this, but for today, I wanted us to live at a place where we can believe that and understand that in our bodies, we have specific cells which fight for us. We also have a specific system which cleans things out. So healthy eating health food and living life with balance according to God's plan allows the body to have healthy cells, which is healthy immune cells, which can fight for us. It also allows the body to have efficiency in the cleaning up system, which is the lymphatic system. And I say this using these terms and these statements because cancer is an immunological condition, is an immune-related issue. Because when cancer cells are present in the body, naturally the body has what they call natural killer cells as part of the defense system, which should kill bad cells and bad guys. And then when that system is not successful, the bad guys and the bad cells, they survive. And sometimes with some cancers, when these cells survive, they manage to grow and create their own circulatory system. So they end up not being channeled through the main circulatory system, allowing the body to destroy them. So you're thinking, oh my goodness, is that why sometimes they have to shrink the tumor? Somebody has a tumor before they remove it. Yes, because sometimes if it's not shrunk, it's pulling a lot of blood and the person can bleed and lose a lot of blood and die. And also sometimes they need to shrink it in order to remove it because the body doesn't see that. So the body only destroys what it sees. And so while on this, I will talk about a little bit about those immune cells. In most cases, they are known as white blood cells or lymphocytes, which have different types. They are neutrophils, which kind of neutralizes the bacteria cells, if you want to put it like that. They are phagocytes, which kind of swallow and engulf and destroy. They are eosinophils, which gives the blood a red color. There's also other, like the natural killer cells I talked to you about, which are present. So when you get your blood work done and they're doing like a blood analysis, they usually read the presence of these lymphocytes or these white blood cells. They do the red blood cells too, but the white blood cells, in most cases, when you have elevated labs of the white blood cells, it's the presence of an infection or presence of some form of cancer in certain times. However, there are also times when you have lower reading of these cells. So when you have extremely lower levels of the lymphocytes, the white blood cells, then the risk of getting infection is higher. And sometimes the lower readings also indicates diseases which are either destroying the cells or resulting in less cells being produced. So we do see elevated white blood cells where there's infection, and we do see extreme low count when sometimes there are some leukemias. So leukemia, blood cell emia is blood. And so there are some diseases which are attacking either the bone marrow or the spleen or some form of process which is depleting the cells by destroying them quickly when they're young or they are malformed and so forth. So we tend to see a lot of emias, which you can, anytime you see emia, it's a blood disorder. And most of the time it's related to the cell production as well. So while on the immune system, I know we talked about what it comprises of and that it is cells. I also want to highlight that the body has primary immunity and secondary immunity. So primary immunity is inherent, it's inborn. When a baby is in utero, it receives blood from the mother because oxygen is coming from the mother's blood because babies don't breathe on their own. And so in that blood from the mother comes the defense cells, which allows that embryo or that developing baby to develop its own immunity. And that's what we call primary. So primary immunity is developed while in utero. It's also enhanced by the delivery process. So for babies who are born through normal vaginal delivery, they tend to have strong primary immunity. And also it's enhanced by breastfeeding. So babies who are breastfed or adults who were breastfed when they were little, they tend to have the stronger primary immunity. That's why you see some people don't usually catch certain things, especially if they were nursed by their mothers when they were little. So some people escape some of these problems we see. So this defense mechanism, which is primary, can also be enhanced by the secondary immunity. So secondary immunity is the immunity we develop when the body has been exposed. So I want to use this word because I know a lot of people have questions as to how does these vaccines work. They work by allowing the body to develop secondary immunity. So secondary immunity is very, very important because when the body is exposed to an infectious organism, it develops like protein markers. I would just call them protein markers, or some identification markers, which allows the body to recognize the second time or the third time it's exposed again. So what's the significance of this? The significance is that when the body is exposed for the first time, it develops some kind of memory. That's how I'm going to put it. When it sees the same guy come back to infect again, it fights with a vengeance, which means the body is able to quickly address that and try and eliminate that. It's a good function of the body when it comes to defense. However, it's a challenging function of the body when it comes to allergies and allergens. So I want you just to remember that for now. So for most people who develop secondary immunity, it needs boosting. That's reality. So that's why you see you had to take your babies to get an injection, immunization, and they had to get a polio boost or a boost for the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella, or varicella zoster, any of those boosts. So because over time, the body loses those biomarkers. So for most people who are like immunized as children, for instance, if that immunization record is missing, most like healthcare, they would require to do a titer. They draw blood to see if you still have defense. And if it's not there, they ask you to get a booster. So you're thinking, oh, is that why we have so many vaccines still existing for adults? Yes. So you will find that even the MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella, someone might have been forced to take a booster if they are working in healthcare, for instance. And so I'm saying this now because a lot of people have a lot of questions about why is there a booster for this vaccine, for the COVID-19 vaccine. It's just the nature of the human body. So I just want to make sure that when people are talking about these things, they are not talking what they don't know. We are not the scientists who created the COVID-19 vaccine, so we cannot really speak what we don't know. However, we know how the body works, and we know that the body has primary immunity and secondary immunity. And I also overlooked to tell you that the primary immunity can also be boosted by lifestyle. And the primary immunity can also be destroyed by lifestyles. And so we know of people who partake a lot of substances, which works against them and put them at risk of getting problems. We also know people who have lifestyles which have abnormal sexual behavior, which challenges the immunity. That's why sexually transmitted diseases are a bigger problem. Because you're thinking, oh, is that why then we have to prevent STDs? Yes, because treating these STDs, the sexual transmitted disease, is very difficult, and some of them cannot be eliminated at all. they'll continue to be a problem because they challenge the body's defense mechanism. So you're thinking, oh, is that why people who have HIV have immunocompromised? Yes, that's why you see HIV, and they're talking about AIDS, immunodeficiency, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. That's what AIDS stands for. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which meaning that it's a disease which is acquired, which results in the immune system being deficient. That's all that means. So you're thinking, oh my goodness, is that why we still have a lot of HIV campaigns and to, yes, because it's still a problem, even though we don't talk about it every day, where people are still affected by this and their immunity defense is lower, which means it puts them at a risk of getting infections. So for most people who are constantly getting infections, there's a reason why. So the reason can range from the immune system is low in the case of a person with HIV, or their immune cells are not normal, that some of the leukemias I talked about, or perhaps something in the body is destroying their immune cells. That's a possibility. Or perhaps they have poor lifestyle habits. So there's a lot of things there. And so most people would not think of those things. They just go to the doctor, get medicine. They're constantly going to the doctor, but there's a lot of factors which affect our body. It might also be exposure to an allergen, something which is not good for your body, which then affects your body's ability to fight. So given a choice, the body has what it takes to defend itself. However, some of the things which affects our bodies are too strong for the body, depending on age is a factor, and also nutritional status is a factor. And what I'm going to say before I stop talking is that there are certain eating habits which makes it very hard for the body to fight and survive. There are certain lifestyle habits which makes it also very hard. I like what Dr. Nancy and Dwayne McHenry wrote in their book, that they link this to the salvation component of our being and say that he who knows that he has himself to blame for his weakness and remorse fills his soul. And they are saying also that repair needs to be encouraged. So the body repairs itself spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. It has those. Given an opportunity, the body will. However, we have diseases which make it very hard for the body to repair itself. We also have lifestyle habits which make it very hard. So I'll pause for a moment and take your questions before we move on to the next session. Any questions?
No, it's all been straightforward, actually. I can see the relation between not looking after your body and the diseases that results from that neglect. So yeah, it's straightforward. No questions at this point, thank you.
Oh, perfect. Yes, so we're going to pause this recording and I will just make it short. It's easier to download it. I like what you said, so we'll end here on this session by saying that we know that the process of restoration spiritually is called sanctification. And this includes the finished product of the soul, the body, the spirit, the mind, and that restoration of the physical body is not complete. We will not be completed to be completely be restored until Jesus comes, when this body will put on immortality. And so we live every day trying to create balance. So most of what I'm sharing here would help to create balance, because if we can minimize infections, we can minimize the problems associated with having to go to the doctor, having to buy medicine, having to have no quality of life. So with this health message is a message which restores us to better quality of life and also reduces suffering and distress. So I'll pause this recording and then we'll move on to the respiratory system. Thank you.